Well, God bless you. God bless you. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you for joining and thank you for being a part of the broadcast this morning. My name is Apostle Lance Bellany, and I want to welcome you to Kingdom Voice, an opportunity for us to share with one another, to journey into the kingdom with one another, to share perspectives, what you're hearing, what I'm hearing from the kingdom. And as always, I want to let you know that, it certainly is a pleasure for me to be here and also to have you join me each Sunday morning where we share truths of the kingdom from an apostolic perspective. And that is important to me. And I say that intentionally, on purpose and without apology. I am an apostolic voice. It is coming from an apostolic perspective. And the truths that we share are intended to encourage you to go and to hear the voice of mother and father and to allow them to speak to you according to the mandates that they have released into the kingdom. I've said this before, and I'll take a few minutes to repeat it here in the opening monologue. Um, there are varying voices that are dispatched into the kingdom for every dispensation, for every generation, to declare things that are mandated upon the corporate body, and then also to encourage the corporate body to go and seek those things that are mandated uniquely for them. Okay. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, corporate body versus individual. Let's take an analogy for for an example and for a minute. Me as an individual have decided that I am going to take a road trip and I'm going to head into Houston. That is the corporate assignment for me as an individual, as a person. Uniquely to each one of my members, my feet, my hands, my head, my arms, those members, each one of them have a different assignment to align with the corporate assignment of a road trip to Houston. So my hands have to grab the steering wheel of the vehicle to steer the vehicle in the direction toward Houston. That's one assignment unique to my hands. My feet have a different assignment, and that is to engage the accelerator and the brakes as we journey to Houston. Now, while the corporate assignment was to go to Houston, the unique individual assignments are varied depending on the member. So if my feet did not understand their assignment in the overall corporate assignment, we would be in trouble. Probably more severely, if my hands didn't understand the assignment, it would have us going in a different direction. So my point to the corporate versus individual assignments is that when mother and father give a corporate assignment to the global corporate body, that does not mean that everyone is to be assigned to do the same thing to achieve the overall corporate assignment. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm sharing with you about the nature of this broadcast. This broadcast is serving a dual nature. One, when I begin to speak and share from a corporate voice, one sharing what mother and father have given to me as an apostolic voice to share with the kingdom, and I effort always to make the distinction when I'm speaking from an apostolic corporate level, and then when I'm speaking from an individual unique level, and how we should engage those things. So it's important that I make that distinction and that you understand that distinction. But at any rate, thank you so very much. It means a lot for me to see you here and to have you all be a part of the broadcast and to share with us in this journey. I am truly excited. These are exciting times. Last week I was unable to attend. I had a scheduling conflict, and I really missed being in the studio sharing with you and engaging with you. So please, thank you for your patience, and I really appreciate you coming back and being with us today as we share truths here on Kingdom Voice. Today, I want to talk about, well, let's back up. The last broadcast, we talked about the kingdom agenda versus the America First agenda. And I don't know if you've caught the theme thus far, but I'm going down the path of how do we reconcile our kingdom journey with the current climate, national climate, national political climate that we have in these United States of America. And today I want to continue down that theme, talking about the party that aligns with the kingdom will benefit. It is the political party that will align with the kingdom that will benefit from the kingdom mandates. Okay. When you think about seasons and times and eras, when you think about that, you know that if the farmer aligns with the season that he or she is in, they will benefit because they will gain a greater yield from their harvest and from their crops. Okay. So I can't plant a crop in a particular season that is scheduled and that is natural for a different season, because my yield will probably be nothing at worst, and at best, very, very little. Why? Because the crop that I planted is not due in that season that I planted it in. Okay. Likewise, in this season of the kingdom, the political party that aligns with that season, meaning that you are doing things in alignment with the mandates of the kingdom, you are going to benefit because those things are scheduled to flourish in this season. This is part of the effort of the kingdom to bring about the progress and the improvement that it seeks for our generation. And it's important for us to understand and to recognize that. And that's a good question, Apostle. Do I see either party aligned? No, I absolutely do not see either party aligned with the kingdom. I see elements of a party that do align with the kingdom versus elements of another party that are antithetical. Now I won't use antithetical, but anti the kingdom in a way. I do see one party more aligned than another party is. But no, I don't see any one party aligned, and certainly not intentionally aligned with the kingdom. Okay. A couple of reasons: because I think both parties are still in that mindset of religion, Christianity versus Hinduism versus Buddhism versus Islam, and all of those things. Those battles are clearly marked, and or should I say, those engagements and mindsets are clearly obvious in any type of political observation. But no, I don't see any one party aligned, fully aligning with the kingdom. Um, and the point to that is, and I don't know if they will ever be, quote, fully aligned with the kingdom. Certainly not. And when I'm gonna use the word fully aligned with what I am seeing the kingdom manifest, or the kingdom to be mandating in this season. There are a lot of things that we have to recognize as a part of this. And I want to share some things, and I'm going to share some things with you today that hopefully will give you some perspective on which party and where they align with the kingdom mandates. Let's start with this. The kingdom mandate, probably the most overarching and overriding mandate of the kingdom in this season, is intimacy. And intimacy is that unique, personal, one-on-one engagement that we have with another party. And in this case, the other party is mother and father, Elohim. And I use that term from the Hebrew Elohim to encompass the family of the Godhead, or the Godhead in totality. That is mother, father, and of course the heirs of the Godhead, which are us. So Elohim is that over encompassing family of the Godhead. I do see that. I mean, the intimacy that is probably the most prevailing mandate for this season. Next to that is maturation, maturity, coming into the understanding that there are greater insights to be had, greater relationships to be had, greater understandings to be had in this season from an intimate standpoint than there has ever been from a religious standpoint. Okay, from a Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, excuse me, Islam, any one of the major religions in the world, there is greater understanding, greater insights to be had, greater relationships to be had in this season from an intimate standpoint than there has ever been in that. The maturation part of it is we will and should, well, and can mature to a greater extent. When you mature, you begin to understand your authorities, your liberties, your permissions, your rights. You begin to understand and engage with those things from those mindsets in your engagement with Elohim, okay? In your relationship with the creation. You begin to understand the authority you have with the creation. And when I talk about creation, I'm talking about nature, the things that we are daily engaged with as humans on this planet, okay? As heirs stationed on this planet. I understand that when I begin to mature, my interaction with the creation takes on a whole different mindset and understanding. My authority doesn't stop at physics. Listen to me closely. My authority doesn't stop at physics or at geometry or at mathematical laws. My authority doesn't stop there, because therein, beyond the mathematical laws, beyond the laws of physics and the laws of science, lies the miracle. Okay, listen to me closely. See, the reason I say that I don't stop at the border of the laws of physics and math and science is because beyond those laws are the miracles. Okay, death is accepted as a law. You're born, you live, you die. The miracle goes beyond the death, and it extends life at my command. That's the miracle. Okay. And we have, by extension of our inheritance as heirs of the kingdom, we have the authority to enact the miracle as God gives us maturation. I'm going to say that again. Listen to me closely. As God, as Elohim, as mother and father grants us maturation, and as we embrace that maturity, we now engage and interact with the miraculous at our command. And this is important for us to understand. These are the understandings that are to be had in this season. And I hope you grasp that. I hope you grab that that insight, because it's important for us to understand. So we've got intimacy, we've got maturation, probably the two overarching mandates for this season. What does that look like? I can give it to you from a corporate standpoint, but you have to go get it from an individual standpoint. Let's go back to my analogy just a second ago about the trip to Houston. Yes, we're going to Houston. Yes, maturation and intimacy are mandated for this season. But what does that mean to you as an individual? What does that mean to you as a person? Okay, I don't know what that means to you. I can't give you that. That comes from mother and father. That's where your intimacy with them and your will produce the maturation that they desire for you, that will give you the liberties to engage the creation in a way that they desire and that is beneficial for your particular assignments within the overall mandate. This is important and critical for us to begin to understand. But anyway, let's get back. I digress a little bit. Um, and that, and by the way, thank you, Apostle, for that question. Feel free to ask a question, and we will engage that question as they come through. And I certainly appreciate any insights and questions you might want to share. And if you do have a thought that you'd like for me to share on air, please just share that, and I will do so. So let's talk about this current theopolitical environment that we have. Okay. There are a lot of things that we are watching unfold in our eyes, before our eyes, that are troubling to some people and reassuring to other people. I need you to understand that everyone does not see the current theopolitical environment the way you do. I can safely say that because I'm 100% certain of what I'm saying. Okay, rarely do you get a chance to be 100% certain, but in this instance, I'm 100% certain to be able to say that not everyone sees this theopolitical environment the way that you do. Not everyone. And the interesting and the important thing for us to understand is as we engage with our fellow kingdom heirs and our fellow Americans, that we need to understand and allow room for disagreement, allow room for a divergence of opinions. Okay, and I'm afraid in this season, that in this time that we're living, we can see where many people are unwilling to allow a difference of opinion. Okay. And this is why it is so important that we have laws and enforce those laws. Otherwise, we degenerate into anarchy and chaos. Okay. This is why laws are important. When we disagree, what brings reconciliation to a disagreement? An overriding authority. And in this case, the overriding authority are the laws of our country. Now comes the enforcement of those laws. You can have laws on the books, but if you don't enforce those laws, then now you run into the situation of people feeling, well, look, you're not enforcing it, so I'm just going to continue to break it. And therein lies another problem. So it begins to degenerate. Now, when we look at the kingdom mandates, we all understand that the laws of the land are the ones that prevail. If you don't like those laws, then you change those laws. And the mechanism by which we change those laws is the ballot box. We vote in people that share our perspectives, and they go in and they enact the laws, and they enact the laws as our representation. Okay. By doing that, you shift the landscape. You shift the landscape. Well, when we start talking about I don't like the laws, or I don't like the way the laws are being enforced, well, that is a challenge for all of us. That is a challenge for all of us. This is why elections matter. Elections matter. Now, I'm digressing just a little bit, but just indulge me here for a moment. Elections matter because when people get into office to do what they were elected to do, and those people garnered enough public support to get to that office, it's incumbent upon those individuals to do what the people that sent them there to do, okay? Or rather, it's incumbent upon those people to do what the people sent them there to do. They made certain campaign speeches and promises and overtures during the campaign that they were going to do once they got into office. It is incumbent upon those people to do those things. Why? Because the people that voted for them based on what they told them during the campaign, and they won the election. Now you go do what you are sent there to do, which to many people's chagrin, that's exactly what is happening in the current political environment. The person that is in office right now is doing what the people voted for him to do. Elections have consequences. I want to talk also about the quote resistance that is being put forth by the opposition party. And in this particular case, the Republican Party stands in office, the Democrat Party and the Independent Party stand in opposition to him, to them, because they did not win. Their agenda was not popular enough to win the election. And as a result, the party that was popular enough won the election. They get to enact their policy. You want to change that? Win the next election. What you don't want to do is what we're seeing happen and play out across the country. I oppose the way you are enforcing the law. You can disagree with it, absolutely. But to get in and do what some of the opposition is doing is dangerous, it is reckless, and it is potentially fatal. And this is the challenge that many people are facing. I don't like it. I hate it. I want it to stop. Well, unfortunately, you don't get to just want it to stop and make it stop. You have to vote in the people that will stop it to begin to stop it. That is the way a democratically elected republic representative government works. Okay. I've massively digressed from the broadcast today, but I hope you indulged me for those few moments. Okay, so let's talk about the party that aligns with the kingdom will benefit. I want to take a few minutes and share with you some things that I went and dug out and did some research and put together, so that we can begin to talk about, you know, apples for apples, oranges for oranges, grapes for grapes, in terms of the two major parties that we have and how they align along certain um, um, areas of concern. Okay, so I'm gonna share with you. So let's take a look at some social issues that are at play. Immigration and mass migration. First of all, I want you to understand something. We have immigration laws. We are not, as a country, obligated to engage mass migration. There is a not a subtle difference. There is a massive difference between immigration and migration. Okay. Immigration allows us to take in, to allow entry into our country, following the laws of our country, following the laws of immigration to come into the country. And thus, we receive new infusion of different cultures, different ideas, different mindsets. But those immigrants, and I use that term explicitly, those immigrants must acclimate and assimilate into the American culture. If we wanted to be their culture, then we would immigrate and migrate, or rather immigrate there. That's not what this is. They are coming here, and as a result, should acclimate and assimilate into the American culture. There are laws that we are governed by. There is social norms that we are governed by, and there are religious norms that we are governed by, and of course there are political norms that we are governed by. And when I say governed, I mean loosely governed by a lot of those things. Obviously, the laws are explicit government because you can go to prison if you violate those laws. But norms, you just get socially corrected for those things. But immigration and mass migration, the Democrat position is split along these lines. Moderate Democrats support stronger enforcement, expanded legal pathways. Progressives support decriminalization of mass migration and expanded asylum and reduced detention. So the point there is that the Democrat Party, by way of alignment with the kingdom and by way of alignment with immigration and mass migration, are, they want to expand the ability for migrants and immigrants to come, okay, meaning make it easier for them to get here, make it less required for them to acclimate and assimilate. And that's on the moderate side. On the progressive side, progressive meaning that, we really don't care how you get here, just come, right? That's the progressive approach. On the progressive side, they want to decriminalize someone illegally coming into this country. Okay, that's where they are. Expanded asylum, meaning that all you have to do is come here and say, I'm politically persecuted, and therefore I want to come to America where I can seek asylum. And that's all that's required, and you're offered asylum. No check, no validation, verification of those claims. You just want to come. And then reduce detention, meaning that if you come here illegally, you get detained for a couple of days, and then you're let into the country to get caught up in the legal bureaucracy that for many people can last for 20 years and has lasted for 20 years. People have been here. And that is the Democrat position on on immigration and mass migration. Juxtapose that to the Republican position on it: emphasis on strict enforcement, border wall expansion, increased deportations, limiting asylum, and reducing unauthorized migration. That is the Republican position. You can see that there's a vast, stark difference between the two. Probably a third column I should have put up there is the kingdom perspective on this issue. So let me share what the kingdom perspective is. The kingdom perspective is you follow the laws of the country that you are seeking to enter. Follow the laws of the country that you are seeking to enter. Now, let me go back to something I said just a second ago. Elections have consequences. Prior to this current administration, we had a Democrat administration. What did that Democrat administration do? In spite of the laws on our books, and I can say this emphatically and safely, in spite of the laws on our books, the previous administration let in, some say, upwards of 20 million people that had come, that had not conformed to the immigration laws, that were let into the country from the progressive perspective, and those people entered our country. The argument that was made against that was that many of those people were unvetted. Well, actually, all of those people were unvetted. Many of them were criminals, drug addicts, drug dealers, criminals, murderers, and all of them were illegal. They had not gone through the immigration process. We don't have a migration law. We have immigration law. All migration is illegal. You can't just migrate to this country from a different place. You have to immigrate into this country. It's like being born again. I can't just decide that I'm going to be in God's family. I have to be born again. I can't migrate into the kingdom. I have to be born into the kingdom. Likewise, I can't migrate into America. I have to immigrate into America. And therein lies the difference. Immigration is the path. Migration is the illegal path. Friend, how did you get in here not having the garments that were required? How did you get in here? Bind him hand and foot and cast him out. That is the kingdom. That is the kingdom. So in this instance, we have to understand that the position that aligns with the kingdom will benefit. I want to say something else. Many people want laws to be enforced, but they want to pick and choose how those laws are enforced. That you don't get to do. You don't get to pick and choose how the law is enforced. As long as the law is being enforced within the legal boundaries of the law, within the legal boundaries of the mandates of that law, there you have it. But if you disagree with the way the law is being enforced, you should be mindful that the people enforcing the laws have been put there by a majority of your fellow citizens that believe that they should be doing what they're doing. This is the perspective that I want us to begin to understand, that people have different perspectives about the way the theopolitical atmosphere is unfolding. Healthcare. From a healthcare perspective, the Democrats are, sorry about that. Let me go back. The Democrats are taking the position of expanded access, protected ACA, lower drug costs, support public options, and gender affirming care. Okay. When you look at healthcare, protect ACA, and ACA is the Affordable Care Act, that is euphemistically known as Obamacare, which was put in place when President Obama came in. This issue is probably more aligned with the kingdom's position for taking care of the needy, the disenfranchised, the homeless, the motherless, the fatherless, the widow. This issue has to be addressed by this country. Okay. I absolutely believe that we are wealthy enough in this country to be able to make certain that we take care of those that are in need. The problem that often occurs is that when we begin to take care of the needy from the state is so inept at handling these types of social issues that you get into fraud and you get into poor quality and a number of other things. Okay. Is healthcare out of control in this country? I absolutely believe it is. But anyway, I digress. Gender affirming care. While lower drug costs and public options are admirable positions held by the Democrat Party, gender affirming care is in my opinion, and I will speak from a kingdom perspective, immoral. It is immoral what we are doing under the guise of, quote, gender affirming care, allowing people to make life changing decisions at a time when they are so ill equipped to understand what life is, let alone make these kinds of decisions, that it is irresponsible for the Democrat Party to take the position that they've taken on, quote, gender affirming care. And for those of you that don't know what gender affirming care is, it is allowing minors to make decisions about their gender. And to some degree, they go through complete gender transformation. They go from having all the biology of a male, and then they start to transition to becoming a female at a time when they can't even decipher the basics of just being human, let alone the complexity involved with making a decision like that. But yet, one party has decided to support and encourage that type of liberty, and I think that is irresponsible. I think that is above every other component of their position on healthcare. This one is so antithetical to the kingdom that it overshadows all the rest of it. Because one of the things that our Lord said was that if you damage the least of one of these little ones, right? The least of the one of these little ones, there's a place in hell basically for you. And what we're doing under the guise of gender affirming care, giving it a pretty flowery name, is nothing more than sanctioned abuse of our children. And that is, it is completely misaligned with the kingdom. The Republican position on this is market-driven reforms, reduced federal role, expanded private sector competition. I got a problem with that too, because from a kingdom standpoint, everyone has to have health care. Health care is a recession-proof industry. People get sick, people die, and all of the above. Couple that with the fact that major pharmaceutical, major food producers put ingredients in their foods that make us sick and make us require health care. And then we go to the pharmaceutical industry that make medicines that have all types of side effects that make us need more medicines that they conveniently produce. And there's a vicious cycle between the food that we have to consume, the medicines to counteract the illnesses caused by the foods, and then the other medicines to counteract the side effects by the medicines that we took to counteract the food. So you see the cascading effect of this whole healthcare thing. I don't think either one of them are aligned with the kingdom on healthcare. Healthcare should be available on an affordable basis to each American in this country, citizen of this country. Healthcare should be affordable. Healthcare should be available. And neither one of these two parties align with the kingdom on this. There is an understanding and a way to implement healthcare such that everyone can gain access to it, everyone can afford it, everyone can benefit from the best healthcare system in the healthcare. I'm not going to call it a system, but the best healthcare in the world. We have the best technology. We have if not the best, we're right there with the best technology in the world. The physicians are trained at a stellar level in this country, but yet it is getting any more to where individuals that need it the most can access it the least. And I think both parties are derelict in that respect. Climate and environment. So we've all heard, if you haven't, let me share just a little bit with you of the quote, climate change. Okay. I can remember back when it first came out, it was global warming. Then when they realized that the globe really was going through its natural ebbs and flows, and it would warm and then it would cool and it would warm and all of those things. It was just natural ebbs and flows of the planet. I remember distinctly when this started to emerge as a thing, and Al Gore, our former vice president, former vice president picked this up as a challenge, and as a priority for him, began to give it a real international support. And climate, it went from global warming to climate change, okay? Because the global warming narrative was too restrictive. And then they began to talk about climate change. Climate action as urgent priority, clean energy investment, emissions reduction. Let me tell you something from a purely economic standpoint. If we, from a numbers standpoint, if we went 100% clean energy, we would impact the global warming of the globe to such a minuscule, when I say we, talking about America, to such a minuscule level that it wouldn't impact anywhere near what they claim it will. Okay? Because you have the likes of China, who has I think the latest number is 1.6 billion people to our 350 million people. They got 1.6 billion. You got India with 1.9 billion. I think it's somewhere. India is slightly more populated than China. You've got Russia, all of which have no interest in clean energy. They're populating, they're burning coal, they're burning oil, they're burning natural gas. Every fossil fuel that's out there, they're burning at a higher clip than us, can care less about the global warming initiative, or should I say the climate change initiative. But yet you're imposing that upon us, driving up energy costs, cost of living, affordability from our standpoint, and causing costs to go up. That's the Democrat position. The Republican position is energy independence via fossil fuels. Very skeptical of aggressive climate mandates. I think there are some things that we can do to protect the environment. 100% support of deregulation, allowing more players to come into the industry, removing barriers of entry, of enterprising opportunities. As a matter of fact, one of the things I worked with one company, I was doing some work with a company that was processing iron ore in such an efficient way that it would make the processing of the ore economically superior to anything that had happened um, in the past, and anything that any technology that was available up to this point. But that's a fossil fuel, or it comes from the earth. It's a natural element. And my point to this is that when you look at the kingdom perspective, God put these things in the earth for the function and the sustaining sustenance of life for us. And when we properly use those things, when we properly engage with them, not only do we support life from a human standpoint, but we also promote progress, and we promote abundance. We increase the quality of life. All of those things come as a part of us using what God has placed in the earth. And you say, well, clean energy is with the sun. Yes, it is. So we ought to be using it. Okay. Wind, that's a natural product of the earth. We ought to be using it, but not to the exclusion of everything else. So when we talk about the Democrat position of climate change and emphasis on climate change and clean energy and all of that, they want to do that to the exclusion of fossil fuel. The fossil fuel industry is saying, no, we don't want to exclude wind or solar or any of those clean energies. We want to embrace them as well. So on one hand, you have a very exclusionary approach, and on the other hand, you have a very inclusionary approach. So which one aligns with the kingdom? I think the inclusionary approach aligns with the kingdom. I very much so think that. When you begin to include everything on their own merits, that's the kingdom. The kingdom includes all of us, not everybody, but all that are born again. The kingdom includes all of us on our own merits. What is your assignment? What is your obedience? What is your intimacy? What is your maturity? That's the kingdom. The kingdom doesn't grant me maturity to the exclusion of you. The kingdom grants me maturity on my merits and will grant you maturity on your merits. This is how the kingdom operates. The Republican position is, listen, we'll take all energy sources and utilize them on their own merits. Everything from fossil fuels to nuclear energy to clean energy, solar, wind, water, hydro, all of those are natural energy sources. So why don't we embrace them? We should. And that is the kingdom position, to embrace all of them on their own merits. Okay? Civil rights. We'll begin to wrap it up on this. Any questions, please feel free to share your thoughts and questions. Civil rights. It is important to understand that civil rights, excuse me for just a second. Sorry about that. I got interrupted by my phone. I forgot to put it on silent. Civil rights is such a critical part of our progress as a nation. And we all, especially people of color, African Americans in this country, have a unique understanding of civil rights that I don't think other people share. Because when we were engaging civil rights from an African American perspective, it was about the essence of being human, okay, in this country. Civil rights meant the difference between voting and not voting. It meant the difference between gaining access to the economic system and not gaining access to the economic system. It was about being accepted as a human and a citizen of this country, as opposed to being a second-class citizen of this country. It was about having the right to live physically, biologically live, versus being murdered in this country. That's what civil rights means to the average African American in this country. And I want to say something to you. I want to be very, very explicit with what I'm about to say before I go on with the rest of this. Every civil rights legislation that has been brought forth on behalf of the advancement of African Americans or colored people back when it first started was put forth by the Republican Party. Every one. Every one of those was opposed by the Democrat Party. Every one. I find it highly ironic, filled with irony, that so many of African Americans miss that understanding and do not understand that basic fact of civics and politics in this season. So let's get back to the civil rights distinction. The Democrat position is to expand protection for the LGBTQ plus rights, trans athletes in women's sports, voting rights, citizens and non-citizens, and anti-discrimination laws. So when you look at when Democrats think about civil rights, show me one where in there where it talks about, addressing the needs of equality and inequality of African Americans. It's not there. Okay. But they want to fight for the rights of LGBTQ plus, trans athletes. Okay. Voting rights for non-citizens. Yeah, that's what they want. Okay. And anti-discrimination laws. That's a shining star in their agenda. I grant you that. The Republican position is emphasis on religious liberties, parental rights, limiting federal involvement in social policy, citizens-only voting rights. While I said earlier, Apostle Vince, no one party aligns with the kingdom mandate, but it is obviously clear that one party aligns more than the other party. In many instances, one party is anti-kingdom versus the other party being neutral about the kingdom. These are the challenges that we face. I'm going to begin to wrap it up here, and we'll get next week, we'll talk about national security and then economic policy as well. But for today, I want to wrap it up on the social issues. It's important for us to really understand and to recognize that it is going to be, when you start to shape your theopolitical positions. Okay, I want you to truly hear me in what I'm about to say. When you truly start to embrace and accept your theopolitical positions, I highly encourage you to consult with mother and father. Which of these parties, which of these parties are aligned with you? That's my prayer. That's my request. Which of these parties are aligned with you, with the kingdom? I want to align with that party. Or if not the party, forget the party. I want to align with those positions. Because no one party is going to align with the kingdom fully. It's just not going to happen. Neither should it happen, because the kingdom doesn't care about political parties. The kingdom cares about its own mandates. That's all. Because that's all that is going to prevail, is the kingdom. Every one of these political parties are going to fall. It is the kingdom that is going to prevail. But each one of us, our children, our grandchildren, are subject to the whims of each one of these parties. That's the reality. Amen. I truly hope that you got something out of the broadcast today, and really encourage you to consider some of the things that we talked about. As we get ready to wrap up today, I want to invite all of you, those of you that would like to connect with us, feel free to do so. You can reach me at my email address at lcbellony@yahoo.com. That's lcbellony@yahoo.com. Reach out to us. You can reach us on Facebook at Lance Bellony. And of course, you can reach us here on YouTube as well every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And for those of you that would like to make a contribution, please feel free to do so. We're really efforting to try to bring more and more and more information to the broadcast, guests to the broadcast that can talk about these issues and bring about an understanding from a kingdom perspective. And so if you'd like to make a contribution to support what we're doing, you can do so through Cash App, $LC Bellony, or you can do so through PayPal, excuse me, @LC Bellony, or you can do it through Zelle. You can find me under my cell phone number at 281-753-7992. Either one of those venues, you can support us with a gift of whatever you choose to give. So thank you so very much. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me every Sunday morning right here. And so I want to ask you to join us again next Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time for another broadcast of Kingdom Voice. And until then, I'm going to ask you to be well, be blessed, and we'll see you again next Sunday morning.